What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, talking Tuesday's 12-game MLB slate. Big slate tonight, big contest, especially over at DraftKings FanDuel, too. Really, just a really fun, hopefully, Tuesday night of baseball here as normal on Tuesday afternoon with Steve Boyden, who is on a bit of a heater over these last, week or two, Steve. Some big wins for you. I've done pretty well myself, but pales in comparison to the Boyden heater. How you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, it's been a fun week since the Tuesday show had a couple wins in the 121. A lot of members have followed along. I know that you had a big night last Tuesday. That was us talking ourselves into playing Jonathan Cannon and him being the SP1 on the slate. So that was fun. There's a couple cool contests in the lobby tonight. We've got the big, 3-3-3-3 milli. There's a couple of 150 max contests that I'm going to dabble with tonight. The $2.22 one I think is fun. I usually play 20 lineups, but I'm going to do 150 tonight. So my analysis will be a little bit different. A bit bigger of a pool, but I also think that kind of plays well with this specific slate. We'll talk about it, but we talked last Tuesday about that being a super tough slate for arms. I think this one, it's tough to narrow down who the best ones are outside of Hunter Brown. So my pool will probably be larger than usual, but with 12 games, it should be interesting. And I think there's a couple of weather spots to monitor too. It's hot and humid everywhere here in Chicago. It's super humid. I expect some storms to threaten this game. So let's get into it.
Yeah, obviously a lot to talk about with the 12 games, and we'll obviously get to Hunter Brown, who, to me, stands out as it's not usual on a 12-game slate to have one pitcher. I think very, very clearly the best point per dollar option. Obviously, both of us think that's going to be reflected in ownership. What we're going to do with him, of course, is a big decision on the slate. I do think we'll get hitting spread around fairly well. So, if you want to eat that pitching chalk, I don't think it's the craziest thing to do today, but we'll get there. But first, we got to start in New York, Mets and Yankees here. We've got, a 8.5 total in this one. Garrett Cole making his second start of the year. Pitched pretty solid in his first outing against Baltimore. 200 runs over 4 innings, 5 Ks, threw 62 pitches there. So I thought he was going to go a little bit longer than that in that first game. But I assume they're going to ramp him up slowly. I guess it makes sense given how well the Yankees are playing overall this season. I don't know, maybe 75-ish pitches, I think, today for Garrett Cole. 9,200. I can't quite do it at that price point with the low pitch count. Mets are obviously playing some pretty decent ball recently, and Cole's, I know he had a decent results game, but his velocity was down across the board. So I need to see more from Cole. I need him to get more stretched out before I would consider personally playing him at 9,200. Do you think the Yankees are somewhat interesting here against David Peterson? Did pitch well last time out against Texas after struggling against the Marlins. Obviously, Soto, Judge in particular, I think is a pretty interesting spend today. But overall, I'm not going to have a ton of this game. I don't mind some of the, like a Francisco Lindor one-off, I think makes some sense. Lefty power can play certainly against Garrett Cole. Really good hitting conditions in Citi Field as well. But 12 games on the slate, you obviously can't play everything. I'm not playing 150. Maybe you can get a little share of everything. But I'll be pretty low on this game overall. What are you doing, Steve, with Yankees and Mets here?
Yeah, we've seen, we've been talking about how good the Yankees lineup has been because it's been fully healthy. The old guys are finally starting to break down a bit. We've seen both Rizzo and Stanton go in the IL within the last week, DC. So, starting to get some cracks in that lineup. But it is cheap here. I think so. Saber really likes the Yankees here. Their simulated team totals up above 5. So I think the Yankees are interesting as a contrarian stack here. I'll be having some Yankees in my 150 for sure. They're just super easy to stack with, if you want both Soto and Judge, just because of how cheap the rest of the lineup is now with the injuries. You got J.D. Davis in there today. Jahmai Jones is starting. Trevino's 3,200. So I think the Yankees are interesting, specifically if you're making a bunch of lineups. And then Cole, I'm going to keep in my pool just because of the context of the slate, right? There aren't, true aces on this slate that are going to go and put up 30 plus. I think Cole in 80-ish pitches, can pay off that salary. Like, you're playing him over Mitch Keller in Cincinnati, guys like Seth Lugo without much ceiling are at 9,600 on the slate. I think Cole is interesting, especially since he's going to be low owned with the pitch count. So I think that on both sides of this, it's more of a MME type of play, just because, if I were playing 3 lineups, I wouldn't be playing Cole, but I do want to get over that 7%, just because I think in 80 pitches, he can do damage here and put up 20 or so DK on a slate where I don't love a lot of the pitching. So I'm on the Yankee side here. Like you said, I think this is the best hitting weather we've had at Citi Field all season. My main interest, though, is in the Yankees bats.
Any concern with Soto? So he missed 3 or 4 games, I believe, with the elbow injury. The Yankees are obviously not very forthcoming in general about injuries to their players. He hit a home run, I believe, in his first game back. He hasn't had an extra base hit in 9 games. No home runs, no doubles, no triples in 9 straight games, which is, it's still a smallish sample size, but given the fact that he was coming off the injury, looking at, some of the X velocities there down as well. I don't know. I've been kind of off of the Soto train recently and probably am going to stay there. You have the lefty-lefty matchup too. What are you doing with Juan Soto? And you have a level of concern there?
I have some level of concern. It's not like they've dropped his price tag at all during this. He's still up over 6K. I do have concern just because, like, on the show last Tuesday, I think we were saying that we weren't going to play him until we've seen it, and we haven't seen it. And it's been a full week. So if I'm hand building, I'm not playing Soto. This is more of in my 150. I'm going to have Yankees, so I'm sure I'll have some Soto. We have some good points in the chat. I think J.D. Davis is a pretty big pinch hit risk here for the Yankees, and probably Jones too will come out for Trent Grisham at some point during this game as well.
Yeah, could be nothing for Soto. Could just be a kind of a random bad run. I mean, they are playing him in the outfield a decent amount, and he's throwing. So, but I do think, especially when a player's expensive like Soto, it's worth talking about. Yeah. And he's good enough, like, with the on-base skills that he could be playing through an injury that's kind of hurting his power, but he can still contribute in other ways. But for DFS purposes, if the power's not there right now, you don't want to be paying that $6,100 price tag. So did want to bring that up. Let's get to the next game on the slate, Toronto and Boston. Brian Bayo pitching for the Red Sox. He's fallen off a little bit after a hot start to the season. Hasn't been all that great in the month of June. And then Kevin Gausman, kind of been waiting for him to get going for a lot of the season. Had the huge game against Oakland 3 starts ago. He had a big one against Detroit, but he's had some bad ones as well. It does seem like he's been somewhat matchup sensitive as well. I'll say this looks like a good spot to me for a contrarian Red Sox stack. Gausman's always given up power, even when he's at the peak of his powers, especially the lefty bats. And the other thing, he's been horrendous this year at controlling the running game. 14 steals allowed already, one of the top amount allowed in all of baseball. We know the Red Sox like to get going on the base paths. I was hoping David Hamilton would be in there today, but he is not in the lineup. But still, the top 4 left-handed hitters, Duran, Valdez, Julio Abreu, and Devers, I think are all interesting plays. I really like Jarren Duran in particular. And I think they'll be somewhat low-owned against Kevin Gausman, who still obviously has the big name behind him. Most people, I don't think, really want to stack or use players against him too much. But another game with great hitting conditions, right? 85 degrees, humid, some winds blowing out. Fenway Park. I I can't play either of these pitchers in this matchup, in this weather. So no Bayo, no Gausman for me. I'm not going to go to many Blue Jays either, but I do have a lot of interest in this Red Sox stack. Was on it yesterday too. They did pretty well for the most part. What are you doing, Steve, with Red Sox and Blue Jays here?
Yeah, pretty much same thoughts. Gossman has been super up and down. When it goes bad for him, it goes real bad. Like he just doesn't have the splitter some nights and really gives up power. So I love Boston here. We've been picking on right-handed pitching with this Boston lineup, and it's gotten healthier with Abreu back. It does suck that Hamilton isn't in there. You said that. But yeah, with this hitting weather, two very volatile pitchers, Bayo on the other side as well. So my main interest is Boston here, like you said. But Toronto, I think, is interesting too. They get Bo Bichette back. He's leading off. Just kind of lengthens their lineup a bit. One less horrific hitter in there for Toronto. So I think both sides are interesting here, specifically with the weather being what it is. But yeah, with Vlad starting to hit for power again, which is nice, just kind of lengthens that lineup. So my main interest is the Boston side, but I will be including Toronto as well. I haven't decided if I'm going to do 5-mans of Toronto or just secondaries, hunting the power with like Vlad, Horwitz, Bichette, Danny Jansen, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely the bats here.
Yeah, I don't know how, if you're Boston, I don't know how you don't have David Hamilton in there tonight, but it is what it is.
He's been so good too.
Yeah, this makes no sense. But yeah, especially that Boston lefty speed. I mean, Jarren Duran, like I said, one of my very, very favorite plays on the entire slate. And not even, as a contrarian option, just straight up. He's been on fire, and this matchup sets up just perfectly for him. So love Jarren Duran here. And then I'm with you. If I was playing a bunch of lineups, I'd certainly include Toronto, but not on my short list playing my normal 5 lineups tonight. Let's get to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati up next as usual. Going to be prime hitting conditions in Great American Ballpark tonight. We've got a 9 total. Mitch Keller and Hunter Green on the hill. We did see this game or this pitching matchup, I believe, back on the 19th. I think it was Keller against Green in that one. I think both pitchers were good. Yeah, Keller put up 27 DraftKings points. Green put up almost 30. So, yeah, a lot of strikeouts in that one. They both pitched well. I was kind of in on the bats there. I think that was a pretty good day to hit in Pittsburgh. This one, of course, in Cincinnati, hot, humid, a little bit of weather to watch for here. I think it should be fine. And I think both these pitchers are in play, Steve. I think these are two of the more kind of boom or bust type of pitchers on this slate. I could see either of them doing what they did last time, putting up close to 30 fantasy points, which frankly on this slate might be enough to be the SP1 of the entire slate. So I do like them both a little bit. I do prefer the Hunter Green side. To me, he's the more talented arm, the higher strikeout arm, and I think the matchup is a little bit better for him than it is for Keller. But I'm playing both sides here. I mean, I like Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz against Hunter Green, and then I like a lot of the lefties, especially for the Reds, of course, led by Ellie De La Cruz. Both of these pitchers you can steal bases on, and most of the hitters that you would want anyway from these teams do have some speed. So, yeah, don't like to be a fence sitter, but this is one where I will have for sure exposure to Hunter Green, and then I'll have a decent amount of bats in this game, mostly sticking to kind of the studs on both sides. But definitely a game I like quite a bit, assuming the weather holds up. What are you doing with Reds and Pirates here?
Yeah, Green's been awesome this year. He's sacrificed a bit of the strikeout upside for more like less quality of contact. So, that's resulted in better overall results. The last 2 years he's had ERAs of 4.44 and 4.82. He's at 3.35 right now with an expected ERA of 3.13. He's just struggled with power up until this season. I think he's made a meaningful change here. 1.72 home runs per 9 and 22, 1.53 and 23. That's reduced all the way down to 0.81 which is a massive, massive change, especially for him. The Pirates have been a very high strikeout lineup, fourth highest strikeout percentage against righties over the last month, with that much pop outside of the top three guys. So I think Green is an awesome play here. For my 150, I will be including one-offs from Pittsburgh, specifically the power bats, Reynolds, Cruz for sure. But yeah, I think that the better side for bats here is the red side. They went off last night. Ellie had a huge bomb. Did you see that home run that he had last night? Just a dead center. He gets the better split matchup for him here against a right-handed pitcher. But yeah, I mean, I like both arms here. I definitely like Green more. Keller's been good, especially lately. He had the one bad start in St. Louis, but other than that, he's been pretty damn consistent throughout the last month or so. Just shut down this Cincy team. I do think if this game is going to go off, it's going to be on the Cincy side. So I prefer the Cincy stacks to the Pittsburgh stacks. I just think the lineup's deeper, even though they're down Friedel. Spencer Steer has really come on late. So I'm going to be heavy on Hunter Green for sure, and then I'll have Cincy 5-mans and Pirates one-offs here.
Yeah, we got essentially the exact same approach to that game. The nice thing about Ellie De La Cruz, I mean, everybody knows about his upside, but like if he has, a good, he just doesn't have very many mediocre games, right? Yes, you're going to get plenty of games where he goes 0 for 4 and doesn't do anything, but like between the power and the speed, obviously with Ellie De La Cruz, like when he goes off, he breaks the slate. He breaks as many slates as just about anybody. So certainly someone that I want to get on my lineups, would expect him to be running certainly against Mitch Keller if he does get the opportunity to do that as well. And then, Reynolds, O'Neill, Cruz on the other side are, in my opinion, clearly the two best Pirates to target if you want to go get some leverage against I think Hunter Green is going to be the second highest owned pitcher on this slate. So certainly if you're not on him, pretty good idea to get two good sticks in there. Both have some power and speed against Hunter Green. Let's get you Atlanta and the St. Louis Cardinals up next. This one in St. Louis. Extreme heat here, close to 100 degrees, humid, winds blowing out in St. Louis. And, in past seasons, Steve, before the almighty fall of the Atlanta Braves, this would have been a team to load up on against Kyle Gibson. Man, these Braves team just have a hard time getting there tonight. Actually, don't think Kyle Gibson is the worst play on this slate. He's 7,300. Listen, I know the hitting conditions are prime in St. Louis, but it is in general a pretty good place to pitch. And Gibson, quietly putting together a pretty damn good season this year, coming off a 30-point outing against the Chicago Cubs. I bet his overs on K-props here. This Braves lineup, obviously no Acuna, but we've seen, fall-offs from pretty much everybody in this lineup outside of Ozuna. And now they got, that like bottom three of Laureano, Forrest Wall, Zach Short, just not much there, and a bunch of strikeouts as well. So I actually like Gibson as a contrarian play. Sabres got him down, below 5%, which I think could potentially prove true in this one. So yeah, I like Gibson a little bit here. And then on the other side, Ronaldo Lopez, I believe he leads the National League in ERA, something I certainly did not see coming at the beginning of the year. And he doesn't really appear to be slowing down. He's just chugging along, doing his thing. 9,400. He's certainly earned that price tag, and matchups fine here. There's a lot of low strikeout guys in that lineup, so maybe not the highest strikeout matchup for Ronaldo Lopez, but on this slate at that price point, he's got to be in play. So I actually like the pitching in this game better than the hitting, which is weird to say for a game that's going to be played at close to 100 degrees, but that's where I'm at. We've been on, I think, the same page on all three games. But what are you doing here, Steve, with Cardinals and Braves?
Yeah, I like the arms on both sides here too.
Yeah.
Lopez has won me over, right? Like, we're both skeptical coming into the season. I mean, yeah, he's not going to carry a 1.5 ERA throughout the season, but I think he'll end up, low threes, maybe mid threes, which is a good pitcher. The weather's concerning, yeah, but it's kind of hot everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
all 4 games that we talked about so far have all been in hot weather. And I'm with you with Gibson. He, especially against right-handed batters, has like a 60% ground ball rate, which really helps. This Braves lineup has 2 lefties in it? No, 3, but one of them is Jared Kelenic. And with the injuries, like more than half of their lineup is Kelenic, d'Arnaud, who's done nothing in a while, Laureano, Forrest Wall, and Zach Short. So yeah, I'm on the pitching side of this. I'll have some Braves in my 150, obviously, because of the power potential. But yeah, this is both arms, some Braves, and I'm honestly not sure what to do with St. Louis for 150 here. Just not a team that I play too often. I'm going to be high on Lopez. Always like playing guys like Nolan Gorman, who can hit 2 bombs on any slate, but he has done nothing over the last couple weeks. He's a tough click right now. They finally moved him down in the order. He's hitting 7th. So yeah, I'll be higher on both arms and lower than the field on the stacks here.
Yeah, good pitchers on fire here as well. Lance Barrett behind the plate. Nice bump to both of these pitchers if you do want to go in that direction. And, the Braves have been stealing our money all season long, Steve, by not hitting, and I'm sure they'll do it by waking up here against Kyle Gibson when we play a pitcher against them.
Win someone $1 million tonight randomly out of nowhere.
Yeah, wouldn't shock me at all. Let's get to the Dodgers and the Chicago White Sox up next. This one has potential rain issues too. Again, I do think it'll be okay, but we do need to monitor it. Of course, we'll be in the Discord talking about that up until lock. This one starts at 8:10 Eastern time, so an hour later than the first 3 games of the slate. We have one of the worst starting pitchers that gets out there every 5 days in Chris Flexen. He's actually been not that bad as of late, but still a pitcher that I really want to target against. It's hot, humid, winds blowing out in Chicago like seemingly every other game on this slate. And Dodgers obviously have a strong lineup. It, of course, falls off in a hurry. No Teoscar Hernandez in the lineup tonight for the Dodgers. He must have picked up a personal thing, so he's just not in there tonight. But, I mean, Ohtani, Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, I think you can go down to Pajes and perhaps Jason Hayward as well at 3,500 against Chris Flexen. Horrible bullpen behind the White Sox as well, which does lead to the Dodgers having the highest total on this slate. And it's kind of hard to argue with it. I think the Dodgers are a fantastic place here. They're very expensive, and there's not that much good cheap pitching on this slate. So they are hard to fit, but I do think they're going to have a big game, at least the studs at the top. And then Bobby Miller pitching for the Dodgers. I talked about in his last start, he went on the shelf in early April after just 3 starts. They pushed him back a couple times in his rehab. It took longer than they expected, and I'm not sure that he's fully healthy. His velocity was down a little bit in that start in Coors Field. Now, it is Coors Field. It can sometimes have adverse effects on pitching, but I'm not sure he is fully healthy. It seems weird to me they would have him out there if he wasn't, but I have, my question marks about him right now. So dependent on his stuff, right? He's not like a savvy pitcher. He kind of a lot of times underperforms what you think he could do with the fantastic stuff. And now that he might not have that, I don't think I'm going to play too many White Sox, but I could see people playing Bobby Miller tonight at 8,500. It's going to be a pass for me. What I'm interested in here, obviously, is the Dodgers bats. What about you, Steve? Dodgers and White Sox?
Yeah, Dodgers, I think, pretty clear best spot on the slate. I think this will be fine for bats here. I think if it does rain, it'll be a passing storm. It's just humid. It's 90 degrees here in Chicago. It's been much warmer than usual lately, and that has continued into this week. So no Teoscar. I think he had a family issue that he had to leave the country for. That just means that we get Vargas in there for $3K less. So it just makes him a bit easier to stack with the top two options. Flexing, you definitely want the two lefties in there. Against him, you want Ohtani and Freeman. But yeah, I think that this lineup is super easy to stack here. I'll probably be playing them on my main. I'm going to have a little bit of Bobby Miller. I share the same concerns that you do. But just the context of the slate, I could see him having a good outing here against a shitty lineup. I played some White Sox yesterday. It always just feels bad when you turn the game on and you have a couple White Sox and they just get mowed down inning after inning. Yeah. So probably won't be doing that again. I'll keep Robert in there and Eloy and Sheets, guys like that, but probably won't have too many White Sox here. Dodgers, I'll definitely be over the field on in full stacks.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm trying to get as many Dodgers I can get in there, but certainly hard to get them. Obviously, if you want to go to the cheap guys, a little bit of a different story. That is Dodgers and White Sox. I'll have to keep eye on the weather there, but I do think it'll be all right. Let's get to Colorado and Houston up next. We've got Hunter Brown, the chalk pitcher of the slate. I feel very confident saying he will be the highest owned guy. I could see, we could ask what percentage you think. We'll just go right to it. What percentage will Hunter Brown be owned in the big Millie Maker, the $3,333 entry? I'm not playing that. I don't believe you are either. But Hunter Brown, over or under, I'll set the line at 55.2% owned in that one.
I was going to say 56%. So right there.
So,
and I think he deserves. He stands out clearly. The DK algo just hasn't really caught up to what he's been doing lately. Like you said on multiple shows, he had the one or two bad outings, and it just takes so long for your ERA to creep back down. All the estimators are good on him. He should be, probably a low 9K, mid 9K price tag anyways. And then he gets the road Rockies here. He's going to be deservedly the highest owned pitcher on the slate. It's going to be hard to get away from. I think the Houston bats are awesome here too. You get Gomber here and then the awful Rockies bullpen. I could see Houston. I think Houston's like my favorite of the non-Dodgers stacks on this slate. Tucker's still out, but I think that this is a good spot for them. They've got cheap bats in the back half of the order. Chaz McCormick is back. Dubon has hit lefties really well this season. He's in the seventh hole there. So, I think the big decision for me is how much Brown I want to use. And then definitely over the field on Houston stacks. I see all their bats under 10% here. I'm definitely going to be over the field on Houston bats.
Yeah, Houston, my second favorite stack behind the Dodgers. So I'm with you on Houston bats. And Hunter Brown, you just look at these Rockies, like their strikeout rates against righties, especially when you put them on the road, they're just awful. And I've been playing Hunter Brown like every single start for I think like a month. This is one of the harder pitcher slates we've had the entire year. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I think I will have at least 3 Hunter Browns on my 5 lineups, and potentially do I just play him on all 5 because to me he's just kind of clearly the best pitcher. He's been so good. It's been good to us, and it's got the best matchup. I don't know. You need the savings goes a long way, even from some of the higher price guys. So might just try to get different elsewhere and roll with Hunter Brown. Certainly, try to at least match the field, and could potentially just go ahead and send it on Hunter Brown and try to win elsewhere. It's obviously a big decision. It's not normally how I like to play either. frankly. I don't love playing.
I thought about sending it in the 150 and just locking him and figuring out the rest.
I don't think it's a bad choice on this slate, honestly, and that's not something I normally say. And so I'm sure that means Hunter Brown will, have his first bad outing in a month in the best possible spot. But if you take out ownership, just an absolutely fantastic play, and I think you could arguably give him the top projection regardless of pricing today. So obviously it's going to be one of the reasons why he's so popular. Miami and Kansas City up next. We saw this game disappoint in a big way offensively yesterday. I think it would have finished 4-1, I believe. And this is essentially the same weather that they have in St. Louis, but even more wind blowing out at Kauffman Stadium. Going to play very, very hitter friendly in this one. We've got Yanni Chirinos pitching for the Miami Marlins, who I personally don't really think is any good at all. That was his first appearance of the season. Last start, he pitched well against St. Louis. I wouldn't really expect him to. So I think, people that got disappointed by the Royals, I was certainly one of them, had a few shares for sure, could be paid back in full tonight. So I do really like the Royals here. They've got another high team total, just as they did last night. And then Seth Lugo, who's been very good this season, outperforming his true talent level, no question about it, which has resulted, of course, in his price tag kind of being outsized from the talent level of the pitcher he is. But he does get obviously a pretty bad Marlins lineup. And, of course, as we keep mentioning it, there's just not that many pitchers you feel confident in. So I think he's in play. I don't love clicking him at that $9,600 price tag, but if I was playing 150, I would certainly include him. It's the Royals side in this one. I really like these Royals bats, and then I think Lugo is an okay play. No interest in Chirinos, and not much interest in the Marlins bats either. Steve, over to you for KC and Miami.
Yeah, Lugo just seems like super safe to have a pretty good outing, right? He goes deep in games. He's gone 6+ in 10 of 11 starts. It's pretty rare. Last night busted, but you watched the game. It was super close to having big spots. Like Witt basically got robbed. Massey hit 2 balls that were like just foul that would have been home runs. So the ball was flying last night, and it's basically the same weather here. So I'm going right back to KC. I don't think Chirinos, despite the good start last time out, is anyone to avoid here. I'm not sure if we have the KC lineup yet. I don't see it in the Sabre.
We do. It's pretty normal. They've got CJ Alexander down there in the 8-hole, but the first
did they add him into the pool on DraftKings? I know that he was not in the pool yesterday.
I don't think they did. Doesn't look.
They did not. Okay, That's kind of annoying. But yeah, so it's the KC bats here, and it's some Lugo. I'll probably be about the field. I'm gonna be the stats of this show since I'm doing the 150 tonight. I'll probably be right about the field on him. I don't have a ton of conviction either way. But if you get a 20 from him on this slate, that could be enough with the tough pitching. So I'm going to go right back to KC, even though it burned me last night.
No more riveting television than telling the people you've got 7% of the 9% owned hitter. It's just people just absolutely love to see it. I didn't get to watch that game. So that Massey note that you said, because he hasn't been back from injury for very long. He was crushing the ball though before he went on the injured list. And sounds like his power is back.
He hit two foul home runs and 1 at bat.
Okay, that's all you need to see, right? I mean, maybe not all you need to see, but certainly an encouraging sign. And I'll be back on the Massey train, especially given that information. He was on my short list anyway, but I do think at 3,500 he's an awesome play if it looks like he's healthy, which it does. Let's get to Texas and Milwaukee up next here. This one in Milwaukee. I think the roof is open tonight, I believe. Should play like a pretty good home run park for a matchup for two mediocre pitchers, Andrew Heaney and Bryce Wilson. Do we have lineups for these two teams? I don't think I've seen them. I don't think the lineups are out quite yet, but I think these are interesting stacks. I don't have much interest in either of these pitchers. I think they might go a little bit overlooked, both of these offenses, assuming they roll out their good lineups. I think you could easily go to this game. Like I said, should play pretty well for power tonight. Steve, what are you doing with the Brewers and the Rangers?
Yeah, this is the one that I'm not exactly sure yet how I want to play it. Bryce Wilson has not been good, but the Rangers' offense has not been good either. Getting Wyatt Langford back has helped them. He's been hot since returning, hit the big grand slam the other day. And the price tags across the board, because they have been struggling, have come down. Semion's now under 5K. Seager's down to 5-1. Adolis Garcia's done nothing in about a month. He's at 4,500. So I think this is not a spot that I would likely get to if I was playing my normal 20 lineups. I think Heaney is interesting here. He's a guy that I like to play when he's not going to be popular and when he's going to be cheap. And that's what he is here on a slate where I want to play Dodgers. I want to play Houston. He's under 7K here. Volatile guy for sure. But, he has the upside to really do well in this spot. Like, he's scuffled a bit at times this season. But overall, I just think that the upside for under 7K is good enough to have him in the pool here. Kind of quietly, the Brewers have struggled big time against left-handed pitching over the last 30 days, 26th in weighted runs created plus, 29th in ISO. So Haney's big issues usually power. If the Brewers are hitting with much power right now, I think Haney is definitely interesting for multiple lineups if you're looking for a cheap arm on the slate.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Any pitcher that you kind of reasonably think could maybe get you 15 at that low price point, and think low ownership as well. It doesn't look like too many people are going to be going to the Andrew Heaney train. You didn't make my short list, but you make good points with Heaney, with the Brewers struggling, and he's been okay this season. Can get strikeouts when he's on his game. I don't hate that call at all.
Yeah. He's just not a guy that I like to play if other people are going to be on him, because he's so volatile and it can go bad.
Yeah, there's definitely a few pitchers like that where you don't want them when they're chalk, but when they're going to be low owned, when they're cheap, not a bad play. So I do kind of like that Heaney call a little bit. Might include him in my pool tonight. Let's get to Oakland and LA. We go out west. We're out of the heat for these last few games. We've got again two more mediocre pitchers going in this one. Mitch Spence pitching for the Oakland A's. I've used him a few times. It's been okay for the most part. That Seattle start 4 starts ago was disappointing, but he hasn't been too bad. And I'm a sucker for these West Coast games now that we're in kind of the heart of summer. These are just generally better ballparks to pitch in, and they don't got to play in the 95-degree heat. So Spence at 6,600, I do think is an okay play. Obviously, this Angels team we know not as good against right-handed pitchers. Spence typically gives you 85 to 100 pitches, so he is kind of a full go, and I think he's kind of just a league average arm. But on this slate in Los Angeles against the bad Angels team, to me, he's got to be in consideration. You could maybe make the same argument for Tyler Anderson. I'm not going to make it. I just don't believe in him, but it is the Oakland A's. It's just, if he was down to the Spence price, right, of that 6,600, I think Anderson would be a lot more interesting at 8,200. I can't quite pull the trigger there, but I do have a little bit of interest in Mitch Spence here. He's obviously a somewhat uninspiring option, but I do think you could probably get away with it, which is honestly kind of what we want to do with pitching tonight, right? This slate's going to be one with the bats, and you just kind of got to survive the pitching, I think is going to how it's going to end up. So any interest in Mitch Spence here, Steve?
Yeah, I think Spence is certainly interesting. I think he's, like you said, and he's pitched to this so far. He's basically a league average arm.
Yep.
He's not a strikeout guy, but through 7 starts, he looks pretty good. He's got an ERA under 4. The estimators are all under 4. The Angels are just completely dead right now, like you said, against right-handed pitching. 26th in weighted runs created plus, 28th in ISO. And like you said, this is out west, out of the heat. I think Spence is super interesting here for a cheap arm. He kind of feels like the opposite of Haney, right? Like he doesn't have the upside of Haney, but probably doesn't get you -8 as often as Haney will. So yes, Spence is definitely in the pool here. Anderson, just not a guy that I'm going to play above 8K. I don't think he has the upside to match the guys that are just right above him. So I'll be off of Anderson here, despite the matchup with Oakland. I think, the Oakland righties are decent for one-offs here. Rooker's back. So like Rooker, Langoliers, I think are my 2 favorites on the Oakland side. So not many bets here. I'll be playing some Spence and no Anderson for me.
Yep, same page on that one. Let's get to Arizona. Roof closed here, of course, in Arizona. It'll maybe be open back in late September. We've got 2 pretty good pitchers. Joe Ryan, the most expensive pitcher on the slate at 9,800 rather. He's earned it. He's been good this season. Hasn't had many enormous games, but consistently scoring, in the high teens or 20s, goes deep into games. You mostly know what you're going to get with Joe Ryan. Not a perfect matchup against Arizona, obviously a decent offense, but they are much better against left-handed pitching. Ryan, of course, throws from the right side. I do think he's pretty safe tonight, Joe Ryan. Maybe not as safe as Hunter Brown, but pretty safe. If you can get him in your lineup with, cheaper stacks or maybe like Mitch Spence, whatever it is, I do think Ryan, a decent way to go. I'm not in love with him at that price point at 9,800 in this matchup. And frankly, on a normal 12-game slate, I don't think I would have much. But on this slate, I think he does need to be in play. And then Brandon Pfaadt going for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Another kind of, I think, maybe a little bit better than league average arm. He's been better at home this year. I think that might have been true last year as well. And gets a Twins team that has come alive, but also does still have plenty of strikeouts in it. So Brandon Pfaadt, 7,800, I think is an okay play as well. I think there are better spots to go for bats than this game. So it's mostly the pitching here for me, Steve. What about you? Twins and D-backs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I like Joe Ryan. Under 10K, he's just been super solid, really consistent for about a month straight. He had the one hiccup at Houston. That's forgivable. 3.13 ERA backed up by 3.29 Sierra, 3.03 expected ERA. Like you said, the roof is closed. That helps. It's not a super clean matchup against a hot D-backs lineup, but he's, just come through time and time again this year. And, he's priced reasonably in this spot. I think that he's a guy that I'll be going to for sure. Pfaadt, I think, is interesting too. Like you said, it kind of seems like a boom bust kind of spot, which is kind of how the Twins have been all season, right? Like, they'll hit for power, and it seems like it comes in bunches for the Twins. Like, it seems like they all hit or they just get dominated. So this is going to be one of the spots in my 150 where I have both sides of a game. I'm going to have some Pfaadt, and I think it's worth playing some twin stacks if you're playing a bunch of lineups, just because, we've seen it with him go south, and we've seen the Twins just be really, really hot of late. They've been crushing right-handed pitching, second highest weighted runs created plus, third highest ISO in the split over the last month. So even though the roof's closed, I think that this is a spot where I am unfortunately going to fence sit. If I was playing 20 lineups, I would probably not include the Twins. But since I'm playing 150, I think that they're a reasonable team to include here.
Yeah, all makes sense there. Next up, we have the Washington Nationals, San Diego Padres. This one, of course, in San Diego. Going to be cool weather, as it typically is in San Diego, 70 degrees. We'll play as a pitcher's park tonight. We've got Mackenzie Gore going for the Nationals, a pitcher that we've certainly been on a decent amount this year. He's been a good strikeout pitcher, has given up his fair share of runs, but for the most part has been pretty good. We'll get a Padres team that is without their best hitter, Fernando Tatis, on the IL. Sounds like that could be a little bit for Tatis. Still not a great matchup for Gore. It's just a team that makes a lot of contact, even, of course, without Tatis in there. So 8,800 for Gore. I still think there's some upside, but the lack of strikeouts in the Padres lineup certainly does lower his upside a little bit. It looks like he could gain some decent amount of ownership. So I'm kind of leaning going away from Gore. I don't typically play many pitchers against the Padres, and we'll probably stick to that tonight. And then going for the Padres is Adam Mazur. I don't even know how to say his name. I know most of them, but I pull a man going there. So you can correct me and let me know how to say Mr. Mazur's last name. He's been bad, real bad through 4 starts, ERA over 7. I don't really see a lot of redeeming stuff from him. So I guess I could go to the Nationals here. Not super excited by that either in this park. What are you doing, Steve, with the Nationals and the Padres?
Yeah, this guy's been terrible, not just in the bigs, but he has an ERA over 7 at AAA too. Just not a guy that even in 150 I'm going to be interested in. I'm gonna play some Nats stacks in my 150 too, just because he's been so bad. They're gonna go completely overlooked here in that park. Lane Thomas has been red hot, so I'm gonna have some Nats. I think Gore is interesting. I think he's gonna be overowned though in this spot, like you said. He has the highest strikeout rate on the slate this season, but you have. I've adopted your not playing pitchers against the Padres take over the last couple weeks. They just
not enough striking.
It's a super frustrating team when you have the pitcher against them and they just foul off fucking 9 pitches per at bat. Like I'll have some of him, but I think he's gonna be overowned. And this is kind of why I have interest in playing some Garrett Cole. I think like 80 pitches of Garrett Cole can definitely beat Gore's score here, and Gore's is going to be at least 3 times his own. So I'll be under the field on Gore here, and I'm going to play some Nats stacks as well.
All right. Let's get to the last game of the night. It is Chicago Cubs, San Francisco Giants. Looks like it's going to be Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs. He faced the Giants last time out. I was in on the Giants. I think that was a Wrigley wind game, right? It was
like 95 degrees here with the wind blowing out.
Just absolutely mowed him down. 8 strikeouts. It's got to be his season high. Probably his 5.
Easily. It might be double his season high.
Yeah. 29 fantasy points for Hendricks in that one. I wouldn't expect a repeat performance. Still not super interested in playing this park, though, on a 12-game slate where it's 90-plus degrees in half the games. So, no, I'm not – maybe you have interest in Hendricks at 5,600. I don't think I'm going to do it. And then the Giants, looks like a bullpen game for them. Some sites had their rookie Carson Weisenhunt as the starter or long reliever, but I was looking into it. As far as I can tell, he hasn't actually been even called up yet. So I don't think that's going to be the issue. If we do get news that he's going to pitch in this game, which would make sense. He's on his normal rest, and the Giants have lost like all of their pitchers. But yeah, I can't bank on that right now. Of course, would be interesting to play him if we do get that news, because nobody will play him. But anyway, it doesn't look like it's going to be an option. So I can't go to the pitching here, and I don't really have that much interest in the bats. So a long way of saying probably not playing much of this game, Steve. What about you?
Yeah, they've already announced that an opener is starting. So, I mean, this is a guy that I was going to have in the pool if he started. He's shown some big strikeout upside in the minors. Was their second-round pick in 22, top 100 back end, but top 100 league-wide prospect. We can't really say that much about him now. at this point, I would be surprised if he gets called up and pitches. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. Even in 150, I don't think I'm going to have much of anything from either side on this game. I'm going to keep Hendricks in the pool, but I just don't think that Saber's going to pull him into any lineups at his projection. I mean, even though he pitched well last time out, he still only got to like 70 pitches. He's just not a guy that I see being on the winning lineup. So I'll probably just X out this game, and I might play some one-off like San Fran bats against him. The issue is that the only guy who's been good in their lineup, Ramos, is now 5K. So, he's not 3,200 anymore. So this will be mostly a cross-out game for me, unless we do get some news on the Giants pitcher.
Yeah, makes sense. If we do get that news, I'll swap to him kind of where I can, because obviously we'll get him low owned as well, but doesn't seem like we're going to get it at this point. All right, that's all 12 games. Kind of a quick run through today. I guess that's kind of just the slate that it is. But let's get to stacks, pitching, all that stuff to wrap this one up and get to making our own lineups. Steve, your favorite stack and your favorite contrarian stack on this slate?
Yeah, I'll go with the Dodgers. I know it's going to be the most popular, but I think the lineup is super easy to stack here. I'm going to be playing both Ohtani and Freeman on my main and just making it work from there. Just a perfect spot. It's super humid here. Yeah, Flexen has had a few starts where he's gotten away with it, but just a perfect spot for the Dodgers here on the road. And then my contrarian, I'll go with Houston. I think Houston is right there. And I do think that on a 12-game slate, things are going to be pretty spread out after LA. So I've got a lot of confidence that Houston will be able to get to Gomber. And we've seen it time and time again with these Rockies games, DC. Like, even if your stack doesn't get it done in the first 3 innings, it's not over against the Rockies. Like, when that happens, when you're stacking against like Cleveland, you're like, fuck, Yeah. But against the Rockies, it can happen at any time. So I'll go with Houston as my contrarian stack.
Makes sense. I'll go with the Royals as my favorite stack. Obviously, we're disappointing last night, but in another really good spot. I don't think Chirinos is really any good, and another prime hitting night in Kansas City. So the Royals as my favorite stack contrarian. I'll go with the Red Sox, specifically the lefties, with speed against Kevin Gausman. Not a great Blue Jays bullpen behind him either, and Gausman just hasn't been that great this season. So Red Sox as my contrarian stack, and Royals as my favorite overall stack. I do like the Dodgers and Houston too, 2 other teams on my short list. Most important pitcher tonight, Steve. Who you rolling with on a tough night for DFS pitching?
Yeah, this might be the toughest slate we've had to answer this question. And I'm going to go with a guy that I was not expecting to when I woke up this morning. I'm going to go with Garrett Cole. Ooh. I mean, he's projected right now. I'm seeing 7% owned. I just think even at 80 pitches, he can beat the guys around him. I think he can beat Lugo. I think he can beat Keller, Gore, guys like that. Lopez has some weather concerns. I think he can get it done in 80 pitches. I'm not expecting a dominant outing, but I'm going to be well over the field there on Garrett Cole in this spot. People will just be scared to click him at that price, given the pitch counts. And, the talent's obviously there, even though, this isn't 2020 Garrett Cole.
Yeah. I will have plenty of Hunter Brown, but I will go as the answer to this question as Mr. Kyle Gibson against the Braves. Pitched pretty well. Braves lineup just hasn't been hitting. Is much weaker, of course, with some of the injuries. No Sean Murphy in the lineup tonight, and plenty of strikeouts in that Braves lineup if Gibson's on his game. Also gets really good pitchers umpire. Cheap, low-owned. Kyle Gibson going to be an important pitcher for me tonight. Home run call, Steve. Who's going deep?
I think I might be stealing yours. I'm going to go with Michael Massey, who should have had one last night. I played him on my main. I think he was my highest owned bat last night. Going right back to him here. He fits well. He's still cheap. He's 3,500 there at second base. So I'll go with Michael Massey hits one fair tonight, not foul.
All right. I will go with Brian Reynolds in Great American Ballpark has homered in 3 of his last 5 games. Hunter Green does give up a lot of home runs. Good place to hit, and Reynolds has been swinging a good stick, 4,300. I think he's a pretty strong play. Get some leverage against Hunter Green as well. And finally, we'll wrap it up, Steve, with your favorite hitter overall on the slate.
I'm not going to go to the Dodgers. I'm going to go to the Astros here, left on left. Yordan Alvarez, my favorite overall hitter on the slate. He's gotten it going of late. Price tag hasn't fully caught up. Like we've seen him, DC, like when he's going through super hot streaks, get up over 6K. And Yordan, I have no issue playing him left on left. I hope people are hesitant to do so given the price tag. So I'll go with Yordan.
I'm going with Ellie De La Cruz, frequent answer of mine. Expensive, I get it, but speed, power against Mitch Keller, both of those can play. I think his ownership will be relatively low tonight, given the nature of the slate and not a perfect matchup. Obviously, Mitch Keller, pretty good pitcher, but Ellie De La Cruz, my overall favorite hitter on this slate. All right, that will do it for this show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We do appreciate it. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't yet done so. And of course, the show will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Me and Third and Schlong breaking it down for you guys on Wednesday afternoon. Good luck in all your lineups. Hopefully we will see some more RPS, red, white, and black up top. And good luck to everybody in the big Millie Maker. And hopefully we'll get an RPS victory there as well. That'll do it for Steve Boyden on Draft Sheet. We're out of here.